First up is Siangri, and we can see that it's got a lot of good detail on the model, and the proportions match pretty closely. This turns out really nice. And you've also added this little pot here, this thing there, which looks good. Maybe a little big, but it's a little bit hard to tell with the perspective of it. And yeah, also this chair with some nice detail on it that looks good. I think that these columns, I like that you've added this detail, but it's maybe too extreme here, so I might right mouse click, choose edge, double click on these edges, press R for scale, then grab this guy and maybe scale those in a little bit. Um, just to tone that down if you compare those two now. Um, you can also scale these towards each other this way to make it a little bit more like that, a little narrower. But yeah, that looks good. Another thing is if you want to, if you wanted to do these panels here, let's take a look at the door. And first we're going to need some additional straight edges here, so I'll isolate selected, and let's look at the front view. F to frame selected, mesh tools, multi-cut tool, and I'm just going to try and get these nice and straight here. Enter and click here, and there, enter. And yeah, let's actually do one down the middle. So again, mesh tools, multi-cut tool, and if I hold down shift, you'll see I get percentages, so I can do exactly at 50%, and again exactly at 50%. So now I have two nice panels there. Q for selection, right mouse click face. I'll select these two faces, shift right mouse click, extrude face, and before I scale it down, in the inputs here, I'm going to change keep faces together to off, and then it'll scale these separately, and then get these in perspective view, push those in a little bit. You can see that, and then extrude again, shift right mouse click, extrude face, and then pull it out. And then, okay, I might not have got the scale right, but at least you know the steps now, and then you can do that a little bit better. Let me scale those down a little bit. Anyways, that's how you can get those panels in the door. Whoops, this one. Okay. Control spacebar gets rid of the rest of the interface, so you can see it a little bit bigger. Yeah, but this is great. You've done a really nice job. Loads of good detail, close attention to proportions. Next up is Marcus, and yeah, looking good. This one, um, first kind of overall proportions, maybe could have gone a little narrower on the building. This one looks a little narrower, but overall looks pretty good. I think these steps got a little wide, and this section got a little wide compared to the image. It's nice you've got these barrels in here and barrel over here. That's good. If you guys are noticing this, if this happened to you or something comes out black, you can reverse the normals to fix that. Shift right mouse click, and then where is normals? Polygon display, and actually, I guess I'm thinking of the newer Maya. They don't have that in that quick menu there. Um, if we go to normals and reverse, that'll solve that problem there. I think you're missing. Oh, no, it's right there. You got one more horizontal one there. Okay. And you mentioned not being that happy with these sacks. I thought you did pretty good. I think if you wanted to go further with these, You could, for example, I can take this edge maybe and kind of move that up a little bit. Maybe, oops, take those, move those up, and then I push this whole thing down a little bit. And then I've got that kind of shape that a lot of these have, that sort of curved shape, and you can just move stuff. If you wanted to add some variety to these, like I might take a vertex here, hit B for soft select, hold down B and click and drag and increase the area that's effective, and then I can kind of, smoothly, bend some of these things down. So to give it a feel of, weight, like it's drooping over the edge of that one, like so. Maybe even here a little bit too to get that. It's giving a little bit more, feel of weight and gravity. And so, just kind of going around and doing some of that, I think will bring this stuff to life a little bit. Can even maybe push it down in the middle here. That looks kind of nice, giving it a feeling of like it's affected by gravity, the contents. Anyway, so I would start doing that kind of, editing per object. I think you've got the basic shape pretty well. Do we have one right on top of each other here? Seems we do. Okay, so I just deleted that extra one. Anyways, yeah, so get in there and modify those individual shapes. There's an opportunity to do this just kind of a series of stacks of boards here and there, which could be a nice touch to add if you would like. So rather than just like a big box here, to have the individual board shapes. But overall, this is good work. Next up is Amelia. What I think she asked was that same normals thing. So if I do select the surface and do normals reverse, it's no longer black. Incidentally, if you do lighting, two-sided lighting, that'll prevent that from happening as well, because it's lighting both sides of the surface and not just one. But it's good to have the normals correct anyways. It's just a general clean way of working. So I think this is looking good. Good attention to detail and proportions. I think as far as improvements, one thing is that if you look at the width of the window panes here, those are very thin, but yours are very thick. So taking, for example, let's actually get this straighter on here, these guys, and scale them in to make them much more narrow. Think, you'd want to do it for each window, but you get the idea. Get those narrower and these. And I think that's going to make it a lot closer to these. And I can see you've got that thicker separation in the middle, although that could probably be a little bit thinner too. Although that is revealing some holes in here, which is interesting. I see you've done these as separate pieces, and I'd probably try to keep that all together as one seamless piece if at all possible, because otherwise that's challenging. So a couple different ways of doing that. I guess what I would do to get the depth that I'd want is I would probably go, let's isolate select on this one and look at that from the side view. And then I'll take the Mesh Tools multi-cut tool and just hold down Shift, where I want to put the window pane, and just slice right through there. And then I've got, that edge there to work with, and assuming that's where you want it. And then I'm going to go select that edge and see, I just double click on it, selects all the way around. Then I can do Shift, right mouse click, fill hole. Hey, sorry, it didn't select. Let's try that again. Shift right mouse click, fill hole. Doesn't like it. It's unhappy with this surface, probably because of some of the weird Boolean cuts in there. So there's some other things we can try. Let's see if it will let us do bridge. Shift right mouse click. Bridge? No. That is interesting. So both or either of those things I would think should work. So let me back this up then. And let's see if it lets us do this differently. So again, select the edge. I'll try. Yeah, it doesn't see these as like continuous going around. Yeah, oh, there's something a little wacky about the surface here. Like that, all that stuff shouldn't be happening. So, okay, we're going to do this way easier. um, what we're going to do is actually, we're just going to create a plane. And I'm just going to hold down X, middle mouse drag, and scale that up a little bit. Oh, let's turn off isolate select so we can see this plane here. Let's rotate it so that's straight there. And then I'm going to move the pivot point to the corner of this. So hold down D and V and middle mouse drag there, and then just get that in the corner there. And scale that like that, and this. So that'll be like the glass surface. Let's just move that forward here, and that can be the glass. And you can just actually that's probably an easier way to do it, anyways. And then you can just assign your glass material to this thing, and then you have that separate from the rest of the window, and that's probably be a good way to go rather than having a separate block in each window. A little easier. You could use a cube too to give it some thickness, but you probably wouldn't notice it. What else? For the columns, you could add some of this detail. And to me, these look like, when I look at this, it's a little hard to see, but this kind of line here, and there's sort of a shadow along the side there. I would say that these are not cylinders, but in fact, elongated cubes with that extra detail in there. So you could add that. Staircase is looking good. Doors are looking good. So yeah, good work overall. Next up is Alina, and yeah, it seems like you're having some pretty big issues with this building. So I would recreate that. I'm going to start create polygon cube, and I'll just W middle mouse drag with X and just get it over here. D and V to put the pivot point in the corner, holding D and V at the same time and middle mouse dragging. And then I'm just going to grab these two objects, just shift select those two, and then isolate the selected objects. And then let's move this to this corner here. Just hold down V, middle mouse drag, just to snap it to that corner. That'll help me get this to the same size. Might turn off isolate select now that I've got that lined up, and scale this up probably to there, that way, and then longer this way, say to there, and then this way to here, and then get rid of this sort of crazy surface that you seem to be having trouble with. And then go ahead and probably cut out these windows again, and then this time I'll just, instead of using Boolean, I'll use multicut to do that. Mesh tools, multicut tool, and just hold down shift. Actually, I can also, if I hold down control, it'll put a loop around the whole thing, which should work here. So I'll just do that for those windows. And this doorway here. And this window. Okay, and then got a much cleaner surface, so select face and get these and that, and then I've removed those. And you can add another plane back in for the glass if you want. Or in fact, you could have left that. Um, Whoops. Like, get rid of that one. Maybe I'll let's just isolate this real quick. This doesn't want me to select around the doorway. Oh yeah, it is. And then to give that door some thickness, I can do Shift right mouse click, extrude edge. Just push that back. Oh, it doesn't want to go back. Okay, let's just click on this guy. Make sure he goes straight back. And that'll give the appearance of some thickness to that wall. And turn off isolate select. Okay, better. And then, yeah, I can, let me just get my interface back here. And I might open up the hypershade here. And I guess this is, oh, we don't see the bottom thing here. Okay. So I'll just middle mouse drag that onto here and assign that. And then do we have something for Windows? I don't think we do. Oh, that says Windows, but it's not transparent. Is that assigned to anything? Oh, that kind of like the window frames. I get it. So if you wanted to do the glass, I'll just make a, say, a blend and select just these faces of the window panes and assign material to selection. And then I'll just double click on this and adjust the transparency to make those mostly transparent. But you can see some specular highlight in the glass. Anyway, so that's how I would go about getting a nice clean building shape and solving a lot of the issues you're having with that shape. These look really good. Let's go back to our side-by-side comparison here. And yeah, the columns are looking good. Little doorways here. I think the windows proportionally are actually, these are much smaller than the ones you have, so I would take a look at those proportions. Obviously, before you were to do something like rebuild the building like I did, I should have looked at that first. That's all right. You get the point. Yeah, these are looking good. That looks good along the top. So yeah, a lot of good detail. Just main thing I would say is fixing the proportion of the windows and cleaning up the shape of the building. There's also, I think, a little bit of a like a ridge kind of line here, so you could add, oh, I guess you kind of do have that in there. Okay. One thing I've noticed is this, this wood part goes up further, so I'd have a, move the bottom of this thing up and then extend, the wood up here a little bit. But yeah, overall good work. Next up is Jimmy, and yeah, another one looking good. Yeah, it's clearly some good attention paid to the detail and the proportions here. I think, yeah, some areas for improvement would be, look at the slope of this roof seems a little steeper. Yours looks a little flatter, and maybe yours extends a bit further over the edge, but only by some. One thing that would really help is this gray vertical there on either side to kind of break up the shape and to match that there. The door, I'm guessing has some, it looks, again, and you can barely tell from this image, but it kind of looks like it has some of those panels on the bottom. And in an earlier video, you may have seen me add those in, so you could do something similar here if you wanted to, although it's, it's hardly visible, so you wouldn't know. But you could probably, I would kind of recreate this door without using booleans, like using multi-cut instead, because it's kind of a bit of a mess there. I guess, yeah, I guess I can do that real quick. Let's create a cube and middle mouse drag V and just get it there, and then hold down D and V and middle mouse drag to get that corner in, and I'll select these two and then isolate select so they're the only ones in there, and then hold down V middle mouse drag to get to that corner, and I'm just using that to help me size the door so I don't have to do that again. Get it in the right place. I guess this has some transparent material on it. I think you changed your default material to be transparent. So I'm just going to delete out that one, and let's turn off isolate select. And so now I guess I might sometimes you can still subdivide these, but sometimes it screws it up after you've scaled it. Okay, good. I got a split down the middle, which I think will help me out here. And it's probably the only thing I need. Then I'll grab the Mesh Tools multi-cut tool and figure out about where I want that top thing to be. Maybe there. And this lines up near the bottom of that window, so maybe around there. And then do a series of extrudes. So let's do this thing first, and extrude face. Scale that in a little bit, and extrude again. Shift right mouse click, extrude face, and push that back. And yeah, oh, and then I think you want to do the. Oh, you've got some extra surface in here. Might get rid of that. Then you might want to do. Oh, geez, what's that? Okay, something with like separate panes at the top. So I'll select these two faces and do extrude face on those. But in the inputs here, I'm going to turn off keep faces together, and then when I scale these, they will be separate. And then extrude again, shift right mouse click, extrude face, push those back. Don't worry about that right now because I think that there's just another surface there in the way or something. I don't know why that turned black. Is it the normals or something? I guess so, yeah. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then yeah, and then do a similar set of things for this set of windows. Extrude face, keep faces together, off, scale those in. Maybe these are narrower, I think. And then extrude again, shift right mouse click, extrude face, push that, whoops, push that back. I think again you've got some, do we have some other surfaces in there? Oh yeah, that's these things. Okay. And you could do more detail than that, and then you could do some, panels on the bottom as well. Again, using the same technique. Extrude it again, scale it down a little bit, push it in some, maybe scale it a little more, and then extrude face, and then pull it out for those kind of bottom panels. So something like that. And then you'd want to make these things transparent. I might sort of cheat on this a little bit, but these windows are going to be transparent. I'll just do two panes side by side. Yeah, there's my. Okay, so I'll just select the faces of the window and assign material. And I didn't make like the back of the door. I kind of messed this up. So I might either just, unless you think you're going to see that, I might just delete it. I was kind of cheating. But you wouldn't be able to tell from this side. It should just work. Okay. Um, is there another? Yeah. Or I could also just assign the glass to that as well, and that should. Yeah. See, that's transparent now too. So I probably would have been better to do both sides of the door at the same time. I sort of cheated, but I don't think anybody will see the inside of the door on this anyways. But if they were, then you'd have to do, extrude both sides of the door out at the same time. So that gives you an idea of a kind of a clean way of building that. But overall, yeah, this is looking good. Next up is Reese, and I don't know what happened to the front of the building. I mean, it's not a big deal because it's just not sure what happened to the audio, so I'm re-recording it. Yeah, I think the overall thing looks good. I really like the detail on the edge there where it's been roughed up, and also in that front awning. The door is looking good. The proportions look really close, and I noticed that the brick texture isn't there, and I just wanted to show why that's the case. And the thing is, you need to include your textures with your file. So I'm showing the texture that's associated with that surface, and I'm double clicking on the texture. And then if you look closely, you can see the path of the location of that file, and you can see that that's on the desktop of your computer. And it's not included in the my file. It's not embedded in the my file. It's like a dependency. The my file just points to that image. So you need to include it. And first of all, you should be putting your files, you should be using a project, and you should be putting those files in the source images directory of a project. If you look at file project window, and you can see you can make a new project. You can put it in whatever folder you want to put it in, and it'll make all those subdirectories you see below. And then you should be putting your scenes in your scenes directory and your source images in your source images directory to keep everything really organized. And so from now on, you should work inside of a Maya project rather than just putting stuff on the desktop, etc. And then once you do that, if to save it all together so someone else can use it, you can use archive scene. So from the file menu, you can choose a file archive scene, and that will create a zip file that includes your directories, your scenes directory and your source images directory, and so it'll have all the necessary files. So when I go to open it, um, you'll be able to you know have all the necessary files there. Other than that, this is looking good. Some nice detail at the edge there. Don't know what happened with the front of the building, but whatever. Obviously, it's an easy surface to replace. And yeah, the windows look good. The proportions look about right. I like that you've added the door handles and the barrel on the front porch. Next up is Cody. And yeah, it's looking good. The proportions matched really well. The colors, it looks like you got the colors right. And some nice detail on the door there. Doesn't look like you got too many of the props, but that's okay. The roof looks a little thick over there, and this roof looks really thin. You can probably just select the faces of that and then shift right mouse click extrude face and then pull that up a little bit to give that some thickness. And then there's a bit of a gap between the roof and the top of the house, so I might just select the vertices of the edge there and both sides, and then just go ahead and move those down so that they're intersecting the top of the house. And yeah, that looks good. Door frame looks good. The separation between the window panes looked a little bit big. I might scale that down a little tighter. If you look at that little line there, get that bigger so we can see it. And this one too, and scale that down. Get a little more narrow. Yeah, you got all the signs, window. You could have added more detail to the porch, I guess, if you wanted. Um, those pieces at the top of the facade are a little more detailed. They have those round shapes, and you just have the triangles. So you could have taken it further by adding a little more detail to those shapes. Next up is Ashley, and yeah, this is looking good at first glance. The proportions match really well. You got the colors in there, and they match pretty well. Also, there was a question about backing up if you have like a Boolean operation, and the answer is that sometimes you can. Um, I'll show this example where we'll subtract from the object. And if I look at that and look at the attribute editor for that, okay, and you see the different tabs on here, and what you can try to do is, so there's the polycube, and then which just comes with it, and there's the Boolean operation right there, and we can see that in the attribute editor as well. There's the transform node, there's the shape node, there's the Boolean operation right there. So I'm going to select it and then hit the delete key, and it deleted it, but it didn't back it out. So like I said, sometimes that'll work, sometimes it won't. I can show you a different example of backing out of history that works. Usually you can remove, usually you have to remove the most recent step and then kind of step your way back from there, and sometimes it'll work. So I'll do an example where I'll smooth a cube, and then I'll remove the smooth from the cube without undoing, but you know. So I've added mesh smooth to that. You can see this smooth node there, and I'll hit the select button down there and then hit the delete, and you see it gets rid of the smooth, and you see that tab is no longer in there. It's not in the history. You can't see it in the channel box either. So we actually did something and then removed it. So it is possible. It just doesn't always work for Booleans, and it doesn't always work for anything, but it's something you can try sometimes, and it can work. Proportions look good. Some good detail there. You've got those little vertical supports on the deck. The bench looks nice. Might have put a little bit of a, if you look, there's a little bit of light peeking through there on the bench in the picture, so you could put like, separate it out into two two pieces rather than just having the one solid backing on there. Looks like you got some detail on the columns, some of the shape on there, and that's good. Yeah, the roof's good. Maybe a touch thick, but that looks good. And you could add more detail to this roof. I'm going to do Mesh Multicut Tool, hold down Shift, whoops, and add some slices there. And let's look at the top and add a few from the top as well, just to have more detail to work with. And then I'm going to Q and then right mouse click vertex, select a vertice. Just going to turn off modeling toolkit there, and then hit B for self-select, and then hold down B and click and drag and change the area that's affected. And then I can move that up a little bit and just kind of put that little damage on there like we see in the image. And you can do something similar on the covering over the waiting area there, the outdoor waiting area. Again, mesh multi-cut tool, and I'll hold down shift and add some detail, and then select one of those edges, Q for selection, right mouse click edge, double click on that, W for move, and move that up a bit. And you can see I get a little bit of variation in that surface as well. So it's often nice to just add some detail to, some variation so things don't look so geometrically perfect. Yeah, I'm mentioning those green lines, those sort of side support things, maybe ones along the bottom as well, to kind of frame that and get it to match the image a little bit better. But overall, good work.